Right now, without moving anything else on your face, try to raise your eyebrows. Lift them up. Feel those two small strips of hair climb your forehead, then settle back down. It seems like such a trivial thing, a tiny movement you make hundreds of times a day without ever noticing. But in that one little gesture, you just did something almost no other animal can do, and something that may have helped shape the entire social world of human beings. Because your eyebrows, those modest little arches above your eyes, are far stranger and far more important than they look. Start with the obvious question: what are they actually for? For a long time, the simplest answer was about protection. Your eyebrows sit at the perfect angle to divert things away from your eyes. When sweat beads on your forehead during effort or heat, it doesn't run straight down into your eyes and sting them. Instead, it hits your eyebrows and is channeled off to the sides of your face, around the eye rather than into it. Rain does the same. The arched shape acts like a tiny pair of gutters, steering moisture away from the delicate, salt-sensitive surface of your eyes. They may also help a little with shading your eyes from overhead sun and catching small bits of falling debris. And all of that is true, but here is the problem. It doesn't really explain the whole story. Plenty of animals sweat, plenty live in rain and bright sun, and they manage perfectly well without a pair of expressive, hairy arches on their faces. If keeping sweat out of the eyes were the only point, evolution had simpler options. So while protection is a real benefit, most scientists suspect it is not the deepest reason your eyebrows exist. To find that, you have to look at what eyebrows do that almost nothing else in nature does. They talk. Think about how much your eyebrows say. Raise them both, and you signal surprise or interest or a question. Pull them together and down, and you broadcast anger, confusion, or deep concentration. Lift just one, and you express doubt or playful skepticism without saying a single word. Your eyebrows are among the most mobile and expressive features on your entire body, constantly moving as you speak, listen, and react. They underline your emotions and punctuate your sentences, a running commentary written across your forehead. And this is not just a personal quirk. It appears to be deeply, universally human. The ethologist Irenæus Abele Ibisfeld spent years filming people in cultures all around the world, and he noticed something remarkable. When people greet someone they recognize and like, they very often give a quick, unconscious flick of the eyebrows, a rapid up and down flash lasting just a fraction of a second. He called it the eyebrow flash, and he found it across wildly different societies, from Europe to the islands of the Pacific. A silent, near-universal signal that says, in effect, I see you, I know you, all is well. You have almost certainly done it today without realizing. There is more. Your eyebrows may be crucial to how we recognize one another at all. In a striking experiment at MIT, the researchers Javed Sadr, Izzat Jarudi, and Pawan Sinha tested how well people could identify famous faces when those faces were altered. They showed images with the eyes digitally removed and images with the eyebrows digitally removed. You might expect the eyes to matter most, but people were significantly worse at recognizing faces that had lost their eyebrows than faces that had lost their eyes. Those little arches, it turns out, are part of the fundamental signature your brain uses to tell one person from another. They are not a small detail on the face. They may be one of its anchors. So, your eyebrows protect your eyes, yes, but more importantly, they speak, they greet, and they help others know who you are. And once you see that, a much deeper evolutionary mystery opens up, one written in bone. Look at the skull of an ancient human relative, and one feature jumps out: the brow. Archaic humans like Homo erectus, and later the Neanderthals, had a heavy ridge of bone running straight across the brow. Above the eyes, a thick bony shelf called the brow ridge. Their foreheads did not rise smooth and vertical like yours. They sloped back behind a prominent bony brow. Modern humans are different. Somewhere along the way, that massive ridge shrank away, leaving us with a high, flat, smooth forehead and sitting on it, a pair of thin, mobile, hairy eyebrows that can dance up and down at will. And that raises a genuinely fascinating question. Why did the heavy, bony brow disappear? And why did expressive eyebrows take its place? For a long time, scientists assumed the brow ridge was simply structural, a mechanical necessity to brace the skull against the forces of heavy chewing, or to fill the space between the eye sockets and a low, long brain case. But in 2018, a team at the University of York, including Penny Spikins, Paul O'Higgins, and Ricardo Miguel Godinho, took a famous ancient skull and tested those ideas using computer models. They digitally shaved down the massive brow ridge of a fossil skull and measured what happened to the stresses of biting, and they found that the giant brow was far larger than chewing or skull architecture actually required. It was, in a sense, overbuilt. That left an intriguing possibility. Perhaps the huge brow ridge wasn't really about mechanics at all. Perhaps it was about signaling. A big, permanent, jutting brow casts a constant shadow over the eyes and lends a face a fixed look of dominance or aggression, a perpetual hard stare. It is a feature for intimidation, for projecting status, the kind of signal that suits a more competitive, confrontational way of living. But as our ancestors became more social and more cooperative, leaning on friendship, alliance, and shared effort to survive, a face built for intimidation may have become a liability. And here is the elegant part of the idea. When that heavy, bony shelf receded into a smooth, flat forehead, it freed the eyebrows to move. Suddenly, the brow could lift in friendly greeting, knit in sympathy, flash in recognition. A face that once said, "back off," could now say hello. In this view, the soft, expressive eyebrow is a kind of monument to our growing need to get along. Now, it is important to be honest here. This is a hypothesis, not a settled fact. Other researchers point out that the modern smooth forehead may have emerged partly as a side effect of other changes, our faces growing smaller and flatter, our brain cases becoming taller and rounder. The shrinking brow might be partly a consequence of skull reshaping, rather than a feature selected purely for social signaling. The truth, as so often in human evolution, is probably tangled, a blend of structure and society pushing in the same direction over a very long time. What we can say is that the result is unmistakable. You ended up with a face built to communicate, topped by two of the most expressive flourishes in the animal kingdom. And there are smaller wonders tucked into those little arches too. Unlike the hair on your head, your eyebrow hairs grow only to a set length and then stop, which is why they don't need constant trimming. Each brow holds only a few hundred hairs, yet your brain reads their shape, angle, and movement with extraordinary precision, picking up flickers of meaning you are barely conscious of sending or receiving. It is no accident that when we type to each other, we reach for little symbols to stand in for raised or furrowed brows, trying to recover in text the signals our faces give for free. So the next time you raise your eyebrows, in surprise, in greeting, in a flash of recognition across a crowded room, feel those two small strips of hair climb your forehead and settle back down, and remember what you are really doing. You are using a feature that began, perhaps, as a humble shield against sweat and rain, that lost a heavy crown of bone as your ancestors learned to cooperate, and that became, in the end, one of the quietest and most powerful tools you own for telling other people who you are, and that you are glad to see them. Such a trivial little movement, and such an extraordinary one.